any like news this week? I know you said that Dead Space came out.
Dead Space came out this week, and I haven't bought it yet, but a couple of my friends and I saw the general public that actually liked the original one have gave it so many praises. It's actually high on marks on Steam right now.
Oh, really?
It is very high.
I guess I didn't realize that it was on Steam, but I guess that makes sense because Steam and Microsoft kind of go hand in hand, don't they?
Most of the time. Well, the game was published by EA, so they're kind of across the map. So,
okay. I'm honestly kind of. I feel like EA. Well, I guess their sports titles aren't on Steam. And I don't know if that's because of
So you can go on PlayStation 5. Like I have a PS5. If I had EA Plus account, I can get the game for $63.
Oh, okay.
Because I'm an EA subscriber. But I'm just going to get a physical copy when I get paid next week. So I'm going to go because I buy physical for most of my stuff anyway.
So do you still buy physical copies?
Yeah, because I like having the CD, I guess, you know.
No, it makes sense. I think maybe I was telling you or somebody that as soon as I got like the 360, I just started buying digital only.
You were telling
me
about
everything, and it was like I don't know why I did that, but it was just so much more convenient at the time.
I think it was because Steam kind of took off with theirs, and back in the day when Counter-Strike Source came out, and then that kind of jumped up, and then Steam started like, oh, we can start selling stuff digitally, and then as 360's lifespan kind of expanded, it started going like, oh, you can buy full games on here.
Right.
You know, because we got bigger hard drives. So, you know, back in the day, the hard drives were smaller on the original 360s. And I think they're up to, what would they were? 500 gigabytes now, I think, before they switched over to the Xbox One.
I think so.
But I had my original 360, it had the old memory card slots. Do you remember the memory card they actually brought?
The 360 I have downstairs has a memory card slot.
Yeah, they had memory card slots for a little while. And then as they progressed with the HDMI and stuff, they kind of fanned them out.
I still had the 360. It was either it didn't have an HDMI slot or it had both.
Yeah.
The composite and the HDMI.
Right.
But I'm pretty sure the first one I owned just had the composite.
Now, the original 360 on the composite out, when it had the big, bulky connection for your TV, it had a progressive mode where you can hook it to a 480p monitor or a TV.
Oh,
it was the old AV connectors, kind of like the PlayStation 2 did with theirs.
Okay,
they had the 480p progressive.
I think actually GameCube came out with something like that.
Yep.
And they're like insanely priced now.
They are very pricey.
Yeah.
Actually, I think GameCube actually had the Monster brand.
Oh,
the Monster cables, and those were pricey. They were just well built because they had the really tough shielding on there.
Oh, yeah,
you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. So, yeah, it's kind of like when people are like, "Oh, it's gold plated. It's so much better."
Yeah,
like,
that gold plate is gonna make it shinier.
I was like, you're not, I guess, technically wrong, but what you're paying.
Well, it's gold because gold's a good conductor. It's like one of the better conductors.
Yeah, but better than copper. But yeah. And then before we started recording, you were talking about GoldenEye releasing on Switch and 64.
Yeah.
I feel so bad. I feel like I've been cheating on my Switch with the Steam Deck because I haven't been playing Switch in so long because of Steam Deck. And even the game that I had been exclusively playing on the Switch, which was Binding of Isaac, because it ran so crappy on my PC, actually runs super well on my Steam Deck now. So now I don't even play it on the Switch anymore. So I was like, I'm gonna just boot up the Switch and play something on it. And it felt so small in my hands, and I was just like, oh man,
yeah,
it's such a bummer. But I can't wait for Zelda to come out on it. I think what is it, a March release maybe? Yeah. That's like one of those things. Like I'm not gonna like try to emulate it on the Steam Deck or anything. I'm gonna play it the original way, buy the physical copy. But it's kind of like, I haven't really touched my Switch in a while.
So you brought up your Steam Deck. So my friend that I've known for forever, he just bought him one. The emulation community has become so big on the Steam Deck now.
Yes.
He got it. He got one, and he modified it with the extra memory card and stuff like that. And he's running the emulation on there, and the games look fantastic from what the videos I've seen.
I do run emulation on my Steam Deck. I just don't go as far as like Switch
Okay.
But they have everything. I think you can go up to 360.
I think it was my I guess my take on it would be like anything up to like maybe the Sega Dreamcast would be perfect for the Steam Deck.
Yeah,
I don't need anything to run GameCube. I'd rather play those on my home system.
I agree, and honestly too, I like the nice thing about running emulation is like having like cheats enabled just for like funsies or whatever.
Yeah.
But Mega Man 64 I got on the Steam Deck, and something with the settings and how it works, it just looks terrible. Like, it runs beautifully and the character animations look amazing, but the background images, like the static images, just have lines going through them, and like you can see all of the like edges and everything.
Yeah.
And there's nothing I've figured out yet, or anyone that has used it before can figure out how to like smooth those over.
Yeah.
And it's only with that one that I've noticed, because I play like Ocarina of Time and stuff on there too. I do like a lot of randomizers on it, so that's the only reason why I have like emulation for that, is to like do the randos. But I was like, I'm gonna play Mega Man, put some cheats on, and just kind of like run through my favorite parts of the game. And it was almost unplayable because it just looks so it just looks so bad. I couldn't do it. So I mean, at least I have the OG one, and I can play. Yeah, I can play it like that. But
I know some. There's even some PlayStation games don't run really good with some emulation with certain aspects of the game and stuff like that. There was the emulation I ran was called Duck Station. You ever heard of Duck Station?
Duck Station, I think so.
There's one for PlayStation 1. So when you play any of the Street Fighter games on there, the bars for the health they're mismatched colored. They'll go completely red or whatever, and you can't fix it without going just like having the bare bones minimal on your presentation for the game. So if you do any type of filters or any type of high res, it kills it really bad. So, but that's been the only ones I found out. And then there was a couple RPGs. The first Suikoden, there was some glitching and some artifacting in that, and I think they patched it now to where it's not like doing that anymore. If you've ever played the Suikoden series,
I've like watched people on YouTube play it.
Okay.
But I haven't personally. It's again when we were talking about Final Fantasy like a couple episodes back, where like it's just the dedication of time.
Yeah.
Of like, I really like the series, but it's it's like how much time, because if I'm into a game, I am into it. Like I am full speed ahead.
Right.
And so it's like, oh man, do I want to spend all that time on the game?
I mean, you probably got stuff on there that you don't have to spend a whole lot of time with and play, to where you can just, if you got to go do something, you're not having to.
Right. Yeah. Like I'm still on the Vampire Survivor kick. I've kind of toned it down a little bit just because I've been kind of playing games with my buddy recently. Yeah. But whenever I get spare time, I'll like throw that on still. But I can play for like 15 minutes and then cut off,
Yeah.
And then have like a fulfilled like time in that 15 minutes. But
I'm actually kind of ever since I saw how much the emulation is for that, I actually think about buying me a Steam Deck here.
I think I have converted so many people to the Steam Deck by accident. A buddy of mine who he only plays Stardew Valley, so he has a laptop that's like, it's okay, but it's just like, it's not really a gaming laptop. It's just like a nice laptop. But it can run Stardew just fine, because Stardew doesn't take much to run. But he was like, you know what? I think I want to do like modded Stardew. And I was like, yeah, it should still be able to run just fine. Right. And he's like, but I should probably do it on the Steam Deck. And I'm like, dude, you're going to buy a whole Steam Deck just to play Stardew.
Wow.
But you know what? Honestly,
if that's what he wants to do with his money.
I'd give Steam the money again. I've not been disappointed by it at all.
That little handheld system has improved since its release. And when it first was released, people were kind of complaining about it
I was
with
like,
the
I'm
firmware and stuff in it. But now it's just gotten so much better. People enjoying it. And I mean, besides my friend, and then you saying you got one, how much you like it, that to me is a selling point. Like, oh, maybe I should go ahead and drop the money and get one too. I like handhelds.
I will say that other than like consoles that I know I'll come back to, it's like if most of my consoles just vanish tomorrow except for the Steam Deck and my PC,
you can play whatever you want.
I would be content. I'd be like bummed, but I'd also be like, well, I can still play pretty much anything I want to
Right.
with no issues
Well,
whatsoever.
you know, it's portable, and you carry your ROMs or whatever on there, and you can just
Right.
if you're on family vacation, if you're going to a hotel or something, and you want to play something, that way you're not having to bring something heavy with you or something. You know.
I know, and I think about that a lot because I mean, long story short, but when I was living in Kansas City, I actually there was a home invasion at my house,
Oh.
and they had gotten away with like a lot of stuff, and so like I'm always paranoid. Luckily that was Kansas City. It was kind of like a bad neighborhood. It was kind of expected
Right.
that was the spot. So it would be shocking if it happened here, in my opinion, like in this neighborhood or anything like that. But I still have, like one eye in the back of my head. To the point where when I play games at the house alone, I'll still play with one headphone in and one headphone out so that I can hear what's happening in the house just in case.
Right.
And it's just something I've like adapted to doing. But I it makes me worried. It's like, oh, like when my wife and I go on vacation, she likes to plan every other day. Like we're doing something really fun and like engaging just for us. Like this day, the next day is a rest day. And we'll just kind of like hang out in the hotel or whatever. Then the next day we'll do something really fun, and the next day is a rest day. Easy to do when you don't have kids.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh yeah, like when we went to Georgia last year for our honeymoon, I was like, oh, I'll bring the Switch, and I brought the Switch and played that, and I felt great. I was paranoid that I was going to leave it somewhere or I was going to lose it. But also I was paranoid that if I left it at the house and we were in Georgia, that it was going to get robbed. So I was like kind of at this impasse of like terrified either way. So now whenever we're planning long trips somewhere, I'm like, oh man, do I bring the Steam Deck or do I leave it at the house?
Yeah, right.
Or do I leave it in the care of someone else?
Yeah. I had gone on a few family vacations when I was a kid and brought my Game Boy with me and my games. I had the carrier and stuff. So, entertainment,
Right.
sit in the car. I get bored, sit in the car. I'm like, ain't much to see if there's something I've already seen before or a boring state we're driving through that I was like, there ain't nothing really to look at.
Right.
So I pull it out. And then, it's nice because if it's during the day when you're riding, the Game Boy was such a horrible visual to where you had to hit the light just right. It would hit to where you could see it really clear. So,
right.
I never had a problem with getting car sick. So my mom was like, you're going to get car sick with that. I'm like, no, I feel fine,
Game Boy, never got car sick. Reading, get car sick every time. I don't
Really?
know. Yeah. I don't know what it is, but maybe it's just because my eyes are so
I don't think I've
adjusted
ever
to
read
gaming.
in a car before.
Yeah, I don't know. Not a fan. I mean, yeah, not a fan of reading in general, but if you are a fan of reading, you should check out my wife's podcast.
Gotcha.
Plug.
Yeah. So.
But yeah, I remember we had a family Game Boy. I have 6 brothers and sisters.
Oh man.
So family trip, we had one Game Boy between the 7 of us.
Yeah.
And it went in age order. So it was like my oldest brother, and then he would eventually give it down to my oldest sister. But then it was like, then there were 2 sisters that were uninterested in it completely. So then it would go to my other brother, and then like it would finally get to me, and we'd be like 10 minutes away from where we're going. Yeah. And I'm like, dude.
Yeah.
No.
I had to share mine. I'm the oldest of 5 siblings. So I have 2 brothers and 3 sisters.
Oh wow,
so I'm
the
oldest.
Yeah,
so I know
what's up. Yeah.
So I had to share my Game Boy with my little brother and my other brother, and when my sisters didn't want to play it. So
yeah,
it was a community Game Boy basically.
Right. The grime that got on those things was insane.
Yeah, mine had just it gone through. The buttons were all wore out, and so I ended up like repairing it later on. And getting
really?
I had to find a site. It was called the company was called MCM. They had a big book. You can go and you can get the book from them, and that's when you used to call in and do your the cash on delivery order.
Okay,
so you tell them the part number and then tell them how many you want. So I found the silicone buttons on there. I call them up, and then when they would deliver it, I just pay them cash at the door.
Right.
They don't do COD. I don't think COD is not even a thing anymore. But it was cool because I find a part, and I was like, this is for the original Game Boy. I call them up, put the order in, they got it, and then within 2 weeks I would have my buttons. So
that's awesome.
It was cool. It was real cool.
Yeah, that's like I always think back to like what was it like to, because my parents were never in the market for like mailing things in, even if it was free, like on cereal boxes, you collect the thing, it's like, oh, mail in 15, get a free spoon or something. My parents would be like, no, absolutely, like we're not doing that. Like that was just like that was their rule because it was too convoluted for them and too confusing. And so when we started getting like Nintendo Powers, and they always had the sweepstakes, and it's like, oh, all you have to do is.
Yes.
My dad was like a conspiracy theorist and was like, oh, that's how the government gets your information.
Right.
You know, so like we would never get to do any of that stuff.
Oh.
So I'm kind of, I mean, now they do have that sort of stuff, I guess, but like I feel like it doesn't hold the magic like it did as a kid.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I feel like my friends used to like do that sort of thing, and then I actually had one buddy of mine that won something from Nintendo Power. That was like it was like a arcade party for like 50 of your friends or something.
Oh, wow.
And he like got to go to like any local arcade, and then they paid for like 3 hours of like the arcade machines or
That's
something.
awesome.
Yeah, something like that. But it's like my parents are always like, no, we're not.
So you were funny you bring that up. So like for me, we did do cereal boxes. Now they used to have a thing where you could mail off and get certain things for like Frosted Flakes and stuff. So when Dragon Ball Z first hit United States shore, when it was dubbed and everything,
Right.
there was a cereal. I can't remember what the cereal was. There was a mail-in Goku. You had to pay so much money for shipping and handling, and my mom let me do it. It took about a month, and I finally got that Goku, and it had to where his shirt would pop off, and it had the muscles, and you can put the shirt back on. But it was he wasn't very mobile. It was kind of a collector figure thing. But I mailed off for that, and I thought that was pretty cool that I got that in the mail.
Do you still have it?
No, I lost it somewhere.
Man.
I lost it in a move sometime.
Right, yeah.
I had it on the shelf for a while. I couldn't get care of it, but I don't know what happened to it.
Yeah,
so.
but no, I think there's only two things I can ever remember winning from like a cereal box, and it was because it would just came inside the box already.
Yeah.
One of them was like a color changing spoon, which I thought was the greatest thing ever, even though I feel like I got beat up at school because I brought it to school and was like, look at my, and everyone's like, you're such a nerd. Like, look at your stupid spoon.
Yeah.
And then the other thing was, do you remember back in the day, one of the chip companies had a thing going on where they put money in bags of chips so you could like just win cash, and it was just cash.
I remember that
in.
somewhat.
Yeah, there was something like that, but obviously it was like sealed in like a baggie or something. But it was like $10, and I was on top of the world. I was like, oh my gosh, I just won $10 in this.
That's pretty cool.
Like bag of Doritos.
When you're a kid like that, and you say, I got $10. That's to you. That's like a lot of money.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that was like finding gold right there.
Yeah.
That was insane. But yeah, I remember, and I was like, man, what a weird like. Contest.
I don't even know. Do they even do cereal box prizes anymore?
I don't know. Actually, I was reading this really interesting thing about how cereal boxes have like gotten taller but thinner, so they actually have less like volume in them, and so there's not as much cereal, but you're paying like more for. I don't know. It's like one of those things.
You're
but
just paying for the brand name.
Yeah, exactly. We were definitely brand name for cereal. Everything else was off brand, but cereal for some reason my parents would get the brand name. And I don't know if it's because they just didn't want to deal with us, like, being like, oh, well, we want Lucky Charms, not like, Lucky whatever it's called, or Lucky Marshmallows.
Or the Unlucky Charms.
Yeah, the Unlucky Charms.
Yeah.
So I think that was just like my parents just didn't want to deal with that. So they were just like, okay, we'll do name brand cereal, but everything else was off brand.
Oh,
like
wow.
most of the time.
So, like, bringing up like cereal boxes and prizes and stuff. Do you remember a soda called Shasta, and they still make it today?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I like Shasta.
Do you remember when Shasta came out with the mini cans that were the Super Mario? It had one that was Princess Peach, one that was Mario, one that was Luigi, one that was Toad, and one that was Yoshi.
Yes,
They were all different flavors.
Yes, I do remember.
So I've seen people on eBay sell those unopened. I know the soda in this got to be just nasty,
horrible.
horrible. But I remember those, and they were collectible. People collect the cans on those, and I thought those were pretty cool. I had those when I was a kid when they hit the market.
I mean, we obviously drank ours, but I do remember getting those, and I remember they did something similar with Mountain Dew and Call of Duty.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was like when Call of Duty, like maybe the first Modern Warfare came out, or somewhere along, or maybe like Black Ops 3. I don't remember, but it's kind of like one of the early 2000s Call of Duty games, but they did different bottles had different characters on it or something.
Yeah, I remember that.
One of my friend's little brothers, he collected all of them at the time, and so like he had a shelf all the way around of his room, like the top of his room that just had there was like 50. I don't know. It was like a insane amount of Mountain Dew bottles, but they were all unopened. And he just had them. He was like, one day, this is going to be worth some money. So I wonder if he still has those. And I wonder how much they're worth.
It might be some money.
Yeah.
Now, Mountain Dew has always done a lot of promotional stuff, especially around the NASCAR. Remember when they used to do the Mountain Dew 500? You could get the numbered caps and stuff, and you would save those for
gosh,
Daytona,
I forgot about that.
500.
Yes.
It was called the Mountain Dew 500. So you would, if you get the right caps, if they were the right people that won the race, you could win money and stuff like that. Do you remember that?
I wonder if they still do stuff like that.
I don't know. I haven't seen the Mountain Dew 500 in a while.
I know like Coke does like the codes to get like Coke points or whatever, but I do, I remember that with Mountain Dew's always doing something. I feel like, if they're not making a new wacky flavor, they're
like McDonald's used to go do the whole Monopoly thing. I think they don't do that anymore. Remember they used to do the Monopoly pieces and stuff. So stuff that I grew up with. It was just, oh, I got a chance to win something. In your head, I was like, I can win something, but not really.
Right? Yeah, I remember thinking, I was like, maybe I'll get a job at McDonald's just so that when it comes to be Monopoly time, I can just take a bunch of cups home and then quit my job. Or something. I don't know. So I had some scheme where I was like, oh man.
Yeah, and those pieces were always hard to find. You always get like the same piece like 3 or 4 times. Or like,
but
I already have all
these. It would give you like 3 of the 4 pieces over and over and over again, but the 4th piece you could never find. It's just like, dude, what the hell?
Yeah, it's like, does anybody ever win any of these things?
And I almost feel like maybe they couldn't do it now with like social media presence, because I feel like people would just be on Marketplace being like, hey, like I have the 4th piece that you need, like I'm selling it for this much. And then
it would just
it's like,
it would
give me a cut of your winning.
It'd be very mess. It's just it'd be such a mess and everything.
Which is a bummer, because I feel like I miss that. And I don't know, were you ever part of like fan clubs?
I was actually. So you're probably gonna laugh at me. So I watched the original Mighty Morphin Power Rangers.
I did too. Okay, yeah.
So that was my jam.
Okay.
My dad at the time was working for a consolidated brokerage company that did groceries and stuff like that, and they did the promotional stuff too. So on a Christmas, he got me the Mighty Morphin Power Ranger fan club kit.
Oh.
And it had a tape in there that inaugurated you. He had like badges, stickers. Oh, I thought it was the coolest thing. It was a Christmas present, and I thought it was the coolest thing ever. Me and my brothers got one, and we were just ecstatic because I was a huge Green Ranger fan.
I was gonna say, who's your favorite Ranger?
The Green Ranger was my favorite.
Green Ranger, yeah.
I think after him would have to be the Red Rangers. So.
Right. Yeah.
But I love that show, and when I got that fan club thing, I thought this is cool. And you could mail in stuff to your favorite Ranger, and they would reply back, and it was so cool.
That's super cool. Yeah, I was. I think I was part of or the Nintendo Power Fan Club thing that they had going on for a little bit. I never got any of the swag, but it was like the one thing that I could send in because it didn't cost any money or something.
Right.
And I think I got like a postcard and something else.
Oh, cool.
From them that was like a welcoming and maybe like a pin.
Oh, neat. Okay.
Yeah, but
there was a Super Mario Club at the time. My mom, it was kind of pricey, so I didn't get a chance to join it. But they would send you stuff monthly. If you paid for a year thing, it would send you little gadget things, cup cozies and stickers and pictures and stuff like this. Just little things, And I imagine kids that held on to that stuff, if it's still, it's probably worth some money now.
I bet, yeah.
But that kind of stuff. It was always fun stuff to do. Have something to look forward to because coming home and checking the mailbox and see if there's something in there for you. He's like, oh, if it's directed to you, he's like, oh boy, I got mail.
Oh my gosh, yeah. There was nothing better than in my like pristine like magazine like time frame, like when you get magazines in the mail. My parents had like a big square mailbox, so you didn't have to fold the magazine to like get it in. So all those magazines I have from like there was like no folds, there's no like bends or anything because it would just slide right in there.
So you said magazine. So I did remember my mom did let me have a subscription to Game Pro magazine back in the 90s.
Okay. I have a couple Game Pros down.
Those were awesome. I have a lot of them. I think they got lost in the move, but I had all of them in good condition. And I had some that had strategy guides built into them.
Oh, nice.
I had a couple that had the Super Star Wars from Super Nintendo in
Yeah.
there. Super Empire Strikes Back, Super Return of the Jedi, and Super Star Wars. And there was a little guide on each game on how to complete levels and stuff like that.
Super good games, super difficult.
Yeah.
I remember booting it up all the time, and I think it was when we were talking about the Mario Brothers game, where I would just play the same 5 levels because I knew how to beat them.
Yeah.
I think I could beat the first level, and that was it. But I remember playing it all the time.
Yeah. Though the Super Star Wars, I think when it came out, I think it was a way to kind of push out the new remastered versions of the originals, which I have the original ones that were unaltered on Laserdisc, but that was a good way to like push this because those games actually were on Nintendo back in the day too. They had Star Wars Nintendo, and they had I don't think they had Return of the Jedi, but I think they had the first one and then Empire Strikes Back on Nintendo.
Oh, huh.
Yeah.
So were these just remakes of?
No, these were like brand new.
Okay,
these were just like brand new games for Super Nintendo.
For just new console.
The graphics were cool. And,
Did Sega ever have Star Wars? Do you know? Or was that?
I think there was a 32X Star Wars arcade game on Sega.
Okay.
32X.
Huh.
And I know I don't have any Star Wars games for that system on Sega. I don't believe. I do have some for 64. I have the Rogue Squadron and Pod Racer.
I think I have the
and Shadows of the Empire.
Yep, that's the other one that
But I don't think I have any Star Wars games for my Sega collection. But there was a Star Wars Arcade 32X on there. That was from the I don't know if you remember the old arcade, the Star Wars Arcade. It was you had to fight. You had a lightsaber scene where you had to fight Darth Vader. Then you had the one where you had to do the flying in the ravine or the Death Star to drop the torpedoes and stuff.
Yeah.
It was pretty popular. It was always someone sitting at it at the arcade that I go to, and someone was always sitting there playing it. So
I gotta say that I'm extremely jealous of you having memories of being like in an actual arcade. You know what I mean? Like I've been in arcades, and I've been in arcades now, but like what I mean is like in late 80s arcade where you're putting a quarter down to save your spot, and like that, it just seems wild to me. But
so thanks to my uncle, he actually used to go to the 7-Eleven and play. They used to have arcades at the 7-Eleven, and they could do like the old Joust and Moon Patrol and Asteroids and
at the 7-Eleven.
At 7-Eleven, they would have an arcade thing, and I remember being there. I was small, and I could barely put my hands up to play anything, but my uncle would sit there and play Galaga. He loved Galaga, and he liked Moon Patrol. And then as I got older, there was a place called, it was owned by Namco. It was called Cyber Station, and they had wall-to-wall arcades in there, and it was the coolest thing ever.
Huh.
And the mall had it. So every time we go to the mall, we'd go to the food court, and then we'd go to the arcade while Mom and them go shopping. I'd sit in there, and we had $20 to go in there and play with or whatever. So
I was gonna say, I guess I shouldn't be too jealous because I still got to have the mall experience.
Yeah.
Growing up, which was, man, when you think about it, just wacky. Like, I'm thinking 25 years ago today, I'd be, no, not 25, I would have been 6. Anyway, 20-ish years ago, I would have been like, right now at this time in the mall. Like waiting for my parents to come pick me up. You know what I mean? Like, it's just weird to think about that. Like, that was my Saturday. Like, Saturday was like, I'm going with the boys to the mall. And just a weird, like, and then I think I was like 15 or 16 when they implemented the rule that you couldn't be under 16 at the mall without someone over 21.
Yeah, they did that with ours too.
And I just remember that's what killed it. I mean, which, probably needed to happen because there was a lot of people doing a lot of bad things there, but it just like killed the mall entirely. It was like a month after
culture
that.
really changed from the 80s and 90s until the 2000s. So a lot of stuff that I remember doing as a kid growing up is so much different now,
Right.
So
yeah. I'm honestly surprised that we still have a mall here.
Yeah, I know.
And it's like still pretty bustling.
Now, I know.
Like.
You can go online now. There is places that I can't remember what state it is. I think it's in New Hampshire. They have this giant arcade. It has 3 floors, and it has arcades on each floor.
Oh wow!
And it's still open to this day. and people still go there to play arcades.
I know it's like I feel like now the only way you can get people in arcade is like if you have like a bar there.
Yeah.
Like a barcade, which I do like that as well. There's a place in Kansas City that actually opened up on my birthday the first year I lived there called the Uptown, which is just like a barcade, pretty popular barcade spot. But as long as you bought, I think it was if you bought $10 worth of drinks, all the games were free. So it was pretty easy. If you bought basically 2 beers, you could play any game you wanted to all night for free.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and they had all sorts of like stuff in there.
I remember going to Chuck E. Cheese when I was little too.
Yeah,
they used to have arcades there. It had changed so much now, and a lot of them are closed. But
the one we have here is closed.
Yeah. But it was neat just to go to the arcade. It was always an excitement because it was a different thing.
So. Right. Yeah.
So.
I was gonna say, yeah. Were you gonna point out?
So we were talking about handhelds a while. So I brought. This is one I recently have purchased.
Okay, let's see this Warlock.
So this system actually came out in 1989. It has 2 variations of it. It's the Atari Lynx. And
okay.
It was named Handy something before Atari bought the property and changed it to the Lynx.
Okay.
So the original one, it looked like a surfboard. And a lot of people have those. So I got this version 2. And the version 2 was a little bit more compact and it was a little lighter.
So weird. Like, I don't know. Why are the buttons so far?
So that was the Atari Lynx was very unique in the fact that if someone was left-handed, they could hit a swap and you could change it around and play the other side.
That's actually really cool.
Yeah.
Just because I don't think I've ever seen that before on anything.
You can also, on those, which was really cool, there's a link on the very top for linking systems. You can link up to 15 links and play them at the same time.
Oh my god. Do you know of any games that were 15
I don't know of any of them, but I got the small little bit of games I got with that. So I have a game called Xenophobe, which is a alien shooter game. That one's got inside right now. It's California Games, which was packaged, with the Lynx when it came out. And then I have a blockout game, which is an overhead view of Tetris.
Okay.
So it's 3D. And then I have another one called Basket Brawl.
Brawl.
So you can play basketball and beat people up while you're playing basketball.
Oh, nice. So like hockey, but basketball.
Right. But the system was kind of the first color handheld before the Game Gear came out, and it was actually in competition with the Game Boy when it came out. And then when the Game Gear kind of took off, then this kind of like got lost behind, and then they did a remodel in the 90s and did the MK2, which is what this one is. And then,
I gotcha.
You can still buy games for this. There's a few handheld games that are really good. There's a couple shooting games. It's called Blue Thunder. It's a jet fighter. It looks really good on there. Road Blasters is another one on there. You can get Miss Pac-Man for it. That one's got the original screen. There's a McWheel mod that allows you to change the screen to clear on. A couple guys like it. It's really clear. Mine still has the original screen. There's no pixelation or anything on it.
Right.
So it was one of the handhelds my uncle had when I was a kid, and he got for Christmas, and I played it, and I really liked one. And then after he got tired of playing it, he gave it to me, but it had been wore out so bad I couldn't repair it.
Yeah.
So I was like, I really wanted it. I missed playing the games on it, so I went and bought one. So I've been playing the snots out of it here as of late. Just California Games. That was one of my favorite ones on there. The BMX biking on there was good. So you have 4 mini games within one game. So you had like BMXing, surfing, footbag, and half pipe. And I remember playing those when I was little. So
I noticed there's no shoulder buttons on it. Right?
It's just 2 buttons.
Okay, 2 buttons. It's amazing to me, even with the Game Boy all the way up to I guess the Game Boy Advance had the shoulder buttons, but that so many games could be played on a device that essentially has 2 buttons. I mean, it has a D-pad and 2 buttons.
Yep.
Just wild.
There's function buttons on there on the side that actually you can use them during some games.
Oh, okay.
That actually do things. Like for instance, Xenophobe. Directional for jumping and shooting, but one of the side buttons is for throwing your grenades.
Oh, okay.
So you go in the room, you could throw a little green grenade and it would kill the aliens in the room before you go to the next room.
Huh.
But there was another couple other games I haven't seen there, but there's a handful that use those function buttons. So.
Huh. That's cool, man.
Yeah. So it was I wanted one and I got one, so it's another one I can add to my handheld collections.
Nice. Yeah. Do you have a pretty big handheld collection?
I got a decent size. I got the Game Boy SP, Game Boy Advance, original Game Boy, a Sega Game Gear, and now I got Lynx.
Nice.
So
that's awesome.
The only other ones I would like to have one day would be the TurboGrafx 16 handheld, but
I didn't realize they had
I had a handheld for a little while.
Wild.
Yeah.
Was it the same like processing, but like did it just play TurboGrafx game on it?
No, it actually you could double it as a TV back in the day. There was an adapter you could hook to it that would pick up the old signals so you could tune in and watch it as a TV, mini TV.
That's cool.
Yeah, but it had like D-pad and 2 buttons on it.
Huh.
So, but I wouldn't mind having one of those. And then there was the Neo Geo Pocket.
I remember that one.
I didn't get one of those. I had a friend that had one of those. So I thought that was really cool. And I think that's the only ones I could think of at the moment. So.
What about, did you have the Nokia phone? You know what I'm talking about?
No.
The N-Gage?
I had one for a short amount of time. A friend gave to me, and I played it, and I just got rid of it. It was it was the worst thing I've ever seen.
I think my buddy had one, and I played Tomb Raider on it, and it was trash.
It was a horrible.
Like,
it was a horrible phone.
I was like, it was a horrible phone. It was a horrible gaming system.
Yeah.
The Taco, the worst thing I've ever seen before. But
yeah, that was.
like, that's
they just didn't have any. They didn't have any business making that thing. So,
yeah, they didn't know what was going on. But.
Right. You know, some of those handheld systems like that are like, oh, nostalgia. I remember that, but this is not the I would want to own.
Right.
You know.
Yeah. Well, I brought my DSi.
Oh.
Which I have.
That was the one model I never got.
Oh, really?
That's right. Yep.
It is modded. So I have Twilight Plus on here, which is just a basically the emulation station for the system. So currently I think the first thing that might pop up on there is a Minish Cap randomizer. So
it's actually loading up now. So
yeah.
Is it? Oh, it's asking me. Yep, randomizer. Yep.
Yeah.
That is really cool.
Yeah. So
I never had one of these. I actually had the model before this one. Before I actually went to the new 3DS when it came out.
Yeah. So the DSi was kind of an interesting beast because it had the front camera and then the forward-facing camera.
Yeah.
Which most phones didn't even have.
Right.
So kind of innovative at that time. And then I actually got this one for super cheap because the L and R buttons were broken, but opened it up, cleaned them out. They were good to go. That's usually just the issue. They're notorious for having dirty buttons on them. But honestly, as an emulator for retro games, it's super sleek. I really like it just because it feels so nice in the hands. I hated the original DS. I remember begging my parents to get me one, and then I got it, and I just ended up playing the Game Boy Advance.
I
Excuse me.
Was huge into Yu-Gi-Oh, so when it came out with the Nightmare of Troubadour, I bought me one of the old gray ones.
Oh, yeah.
So I played the snot out of Yu-Gi-Oh on that thing, and then I didn't get a new one until the 3DS came out. That's still because it was to me. It was like I don't need to get something smaller or whatever. So I only had a handful of games for it, and then I went to the 3DS, and I'm like, the 3DS is awesome. So
right, yeah, and you still have the 3DS now. Do you still find yourself hopping on that bad boy every once in a while?
Actually, my 3DS I actually sold it, and then my brother gave me one his because he didn't want to use it anymore. So I got the new 3DS. It was a lime green. It was a Yoshi one, and it came stock with Super Mario Land.
Oh, nice.
And it's still sitting at home. But I have a handful of games I play on there. Every now and then I get on there. I have to update it to play something,
Right, yeah.
But there's a few games on there that look really good. The Xenoblade Chronicles, I still have that for the 3DS. So,
oh, nice. Yeah.
So But there's a couple games I still need to add to my DS collection. I think Chrono Trigger is one of them I want to add because I have the Super Nintendo one, but I want to get it for the DS too.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, Chrono Trigger is really good.
Yeah.
And also, those characters also look like Dragon Ball Z characters in my.
They were all done by Akira Toriyama.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, he did that, and also Akira Toriyama did the Dragon Warrior games too.
That makes sense because I was
they're
about to say they're also
yeah. He drew those as well.
That makes sense. Yeah,
So,
I didn't. I guess I never realized that was he part of the game development or was he?
I think it was
just
with the character creations.
Gotcha.
I think.
Gotcha.
As far as I know, I think that's it was his main part was the character creation.
Nice.
So.
What's the other thing that you brought there?
So we were talking about RPGs last week, and I was giving you some ideas on ones that I like playing. So this is another one that I like. I'm a huge Sega fan. I love Sega.
Yeah.
So I got the Master System. I got a few Master System games. This is one of my favorite ones. It's the Phantasy Star Collection that I've got. And I have that one, and I have the other 3 for Sega Genesis.
They don't make box art like this anymore.
No.
This is fantastic.
It still has the instruction guide. There's drawings on the back of the instructions for mapping some of the caves that you would go into.
Was that you, or was that when you got it?
It's when I got it. Someone had left it in there, so I was like, I was like, well, I can use this. So it plays really good. I have the Sega Master System converter for the Genesis, which allows you to set the converter on top of the Sega Genesis to where you can play Master System games on it.
Oh, nice! Yeah. This looks really cool. Like just by the
really
art on
hard.
The back.
It's a really hard game.
Okay,
and it's turn based. It's kind of like Dragon Warrior. So as you progress, you have an enemy pop up, and it tells you what the enemy is, and you do your attacks, whatever. And as future tiles come up, it would show your guys standing on an overhead look. You can see their heads at the very bottom of the screen when they're fighting an enemy, and then when their turn would pop up, they would pop up one at a time, whatever, and then do their attacks and then go back down. So you would see them. It would do this the whole time you're playing. So it was a different type of turn based on like Final Fantasy.
Huh. Yeah, that looks really fun just from like the back art. And man, they just don't make
and this is a I mean, these are cool because they're not you can play them on any other Sega had they're not banned in any countries. Like you can play it on any system.
Oh, okay.
So like if you got a Master System game from Europe, it would play on your American system.
Oh, that's cool.
So yeah, it was a different thing. So
and that's probably a good way to kind of
actually
like
bought
keep costs
this from
down.
a guy from Great Britain that actually had this on sale on eBay, and I bought it from him, and he gave me a good price on it. And I was
nice.
Like, so
is
it took
it pretty
about a month to get
collectible?
over here. Yeah. Oh yeah. So and then, like I said, I have 2 and 3 and 4 for the Sega Genesis.
Nice.
And I finally got 4 finally complete. I had that was one of the games that came out that was cardboard and not the hard case. But I found someone online that made a hard case for it. But I have the original instructions in the game, so I placed those in the hard case so I can have that for my library.
Right. Yeah.
So
is the franchise still alive today? Is there any talks of it coming back?
It's not an individual game. It's an online game now, kind of like World of Warcraft.
I gotcha. Okay.
The last one I played that I thoroughly liked and enjoyed was the one on Dreamcast. There was a Phantasy Star Online game that came out for Dreamcast.
Duh. I know what you're talking about. I'm an idiot. Yeah, Phantasy Star Online.
I got a chance to play it, but we couldn't afford the internet on when I bought it, so I had just couldn't play it online. But now,
could you still play it, but it just wasn't online, or was it like?
Yeah, you can get on there and do things, but it wasn't like you couldn't interact in socially or anything like that.
Right.
But now, I think there's a couple people online that actually have custom servers that actually run that game.
Oh.
And if you have the modem on the back of your Dreamcast, you can still play it online.
That's so cool.
It is, yeah, it is real cool.
That reminds me of have you ever heard of BS Zelda or Zelda BS? Mm-hmm. The Famicom had an adapter for the back that would hook up to your telephone line, and then every so often they would release.
I was going to bring up a thing about that. There was a adapter that you could put on your Sega Genesis that hooked up to a phone line that you can download Genesis games and play. That's how Golden Axe 3 was available.
Oh.
Yeah, you could get it by downloading it.
Huh. I wonder how long that download took.
I don't know. With it being,
I mean, I guess it would still only be a few megabytes for the game,
Yeah.
but like,
I guess equivalent to a 2 gig game now or a
yeah.
3 gig game.
maybe. Yeah, but if I still had to live in my parents' house today, I would never be able to game online ever again because their internet is still garbage. I don't know, like, it's like they went from DSL to like, let's just do a little bit better than that.
Yeah.
And or dial up, I mean. And I just don't know how the internet is so growing up with the internet. People that are younger that may be listening to this, like, you just don't know how wacky it was that the internet just came to be one day.
Mm-hmm.
Like when my mom came home and brought a computer that was like specifically for connecting to the internet. Like it was like a holiday at our house. Like it was the craziest thing any of us have ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
The first thing that we ever watched on our new internet computer was the very first trailer for the first Pirates of the Caribbean movie.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's like, and it was like, you didn't have like YouTube or anything like that. Like it just was like released through like a news website or something. And then it brought you to this other site. You had no idea what malware was. You had no idea what like firewall safety or anything was. And maybe it wasn't like the first thing my parents did, but I remember like we sat around the computer as a family and watched the first trailer for Pirates of the Caribbean, and it blew our minds that we're watching this thing. But I remember that because it's like a 3-minute trailer, 4-minute trailer, or something like that, and it had to buffer and download.
Yep.
And that was like my family was making popcorn and we were getting blankets and like we were getting ready to watch the trailer. But like we had to like wait for it to download. So it was like a whole scenario. It's just insane that like if you don't know what that's like if you just kind of like were born into internet times, it's a wild experience.
I remember doing DSL installs when I was a teenager. When I got out of high school, that was one of my first jobs, was helping a telephone company do DSL installs. Okay. And I remember using Netscape.
Yes,
that was a browser we use. And using Windows, I think it was like Windows 2000, I think or at the time, or no, Windows 98, I think is what I was using.
Okay, yeah.
So we were using Windows 98. It's just the video quality today, from today's standards to what it was back then. Back then, you're like, wow, I can watch videos on my computer. And it was like the video quality was horrible.
Right, yeah.
It uses
terrible.
like MPEG 1 or MPEG 2. Now you got them where it's like 4K on Netflix. It's like,
there's 4K on YouTube now.
Yeah. So, I mean, back then it was just like, oh, wow, you can watch videos on here, And I remember getting on there and going to GameFAQs was one of the first websites I ever go to. And that was the cool thing because you can go on there and get cheat codes, walkthroughs and stuff. It was just basically text oriented. That was it. And I remember using that for a lot of my games.
Oh man, GameFAQs. I want to say, what was the cheat website that I used? It was like cheat. It was super fan. Like everybody used it, but dang, I want to say it was just like cheatcodes.com or something like that. Yeah. Something probably generic like that. But what I loved about that website is that you could submit cheats that people hadn't found yet. And I wondered if like it started the revolution of people just making myths about cheats that didn't exist. Because my buddy was like, he's like, I'm just going to do it. Like I was always nervous to do it because I was afraid that if I did it and it wasn't real, that the people would come after me, And so my buddy made one for Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2, I think, that there was like some cheat that he found that wasn't real, but he made it very convoluted, and they posted it, and it was on there for years. Wow. But like never fact checked or anything like that.
Yeah, because a lot of those codes, there was a Dragon Ball GT code that like say, "Oh, this is how you play Super Baby." I'm like, "Oh, well, this is cool." So I went on there and did this code, and it never worked.
Right.
I'm like, someone posted this, and it doesn't even work, So yeah, I think now it's just it's so people check it so much so you can't post anything fake on there anymore.
Yeah, and I blame 100% my skepticism for seeing anything before trying it first on Ocarina of Time myths. Because I mean, I was so obsessed with the game that I would like I feel like I like just went through every corner of the game and looked at every section of the game that I could to find anything that I had possibly missed. And it was right around that time when people were like, "Oh, have you found the Triforce yet?" And it's like the Triforce isn't in the game, and they're like, "Dude, you got to do this like 10-hour convoluted
Oh my gosh.
like combination of stuff, and you have to do it perfectly." And then the Triforce is at the end. And many weekends I spent with like guides and maps and like things that I had drawn out and like timing myself trying to find the Triforce, only to find out that it was a huge hoax.
Wow.
But like, no one knew back then, you
Yeah.
know? It was just like, and they had pictures of it existing. And it was like, oh,
Yeah.
dude, so
It's like
wild.
throwing all these fakes out there, and you get all angry because I'm like, I followed what you said, and it doesn't work. You know?
Yeah. But I mean, it's just like, I feel like now, anytime I see anything, I'm like, all right, well, I'm gonna test it to make sure it works because I am skeptical of that existing. but I guess now, not people aren't as like, gullible with that.
Yeah,
but,
you're like, I think, we would have known about this. The publishers would have let us know.
Yeah.
And I know there's publishers out there that there's games that, there's even some old Nintendo games that they left Easter eggs and people have not found them all yet.
Right.
And are now just finding them out, by either breaking the game down by code or actually playing through and finding something, So, I think a lot of the old games still have a lot of replay value because there might be something still hidden in it,
Right.
Yeah.
There's one scene that from Ocarina of Time again that is actually true that happens where basically after like Zelda and Impa escape from the castle and Ganondorf is going after him and you go back to the castle right before you could become an adult. If you go like through the alleyway, there's a guard that's like dying in the alleyway. And if you go talk to him, like while he's talking to you, he dies. But like you wouldn't normally go that way. You'd go straight to the Temple of Time to like do the Master Sword. And if you miss that scene, like it just doesn't come back. So like he like disappears even if you go back.
So it's like a little Easter egg where you get a little extra story in there.
Yeah, it's like a little extra story, but like it's so wild because so many people were like, I never knew that existed. And it's like, I'm like, oh man, like, well, when I was younger, like, I didn't want the adventure to stop, so I'd like go and talk to every person and go to like every room.
Right.
And, like, I spent hours just doing that instead of just going straight to where I was supposed to go. But now I play games and I'm like, I just want to get to the end. I was like, when a game comes up and they don't have voice acting, I'm just like, ugh. You know what I mean? I'm like, dude, I don't want to read text boxes. I just want to get, I just want to get to the end of the game.
Yeah.
So maybe I just need to work on my patience a little bit. But
sometimes some games, if you're really involved with it, having patience to kind of understand the story and kind of read through, it gives you a better liking of the game too.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like I need to do that. I need to like slow down and go through. Because also like things with like Ocarina of Time, like I did this with Mega Man 64 the last time I played through, where I literally talked to every person, even if like you don't need to talk to them at any point in the game just to hear the dialogue that they had, or like read the dialogue that they had. And I was like, I should really do that with Ocarina of Time because I feel like there are so many NPCs that have dialogue that are specialized that I never pay attention to because I never actually have to talk to them.
Yeah.
So it's like maybe I should go back through and do the same thing. Just sounds like a lot.
So you were talking about Mega Man 64. So I don't know if you saw it, but Switch announced, and I think a couple other consoles have the new Mega Man Battle Network collection coming out in April.
Yeah.
Which is the old handheld ones. I have the first one on my Advance.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Where it's an action RPG, so you'll be able to play all of them on this collection thing. And those games are actually pretty pricey if you have the physical ones for things. So with that coming out, people that haven't been able to play them that will be able to have a chance to play them.
That's so cool.
It's an awesome game system, and the RPG element's really cool with it.
Interesting. Okay.
It uses a grid system to where you move back and forth on the grid, and some of the grids have where they'll drop from underneath you or have shock or something. You have to kind of move your Mega Man around while you're fighting.
I don't know if I've ever even played these before.
Really?
Maybe I should check it out because this doesn't even sound. I'm like the name sounds familiar, but for some reason I'm thinking of just like classic side-scrolling Mega
They
Man.
were a popular thing. If you had the games, you could, and the link cable for the advances back then, you could trade off stuff with other people.
Huh? I might have to check this out.
Yeah, definitely check
Heck
it out.
yeah, because one Final Fantasy game that I really liked when I played it, but then I guess as I got older, I was like, I don't have the patience for this, or something about it really annoyed me. Was the Final Fantasy Tactics?
That's a good one for PlayStation. Yeah.
Well, it's on Game Boy,
Yeah.
also or Game Boy Advance as
Yep.
well. But I remember that the thing that I didn't like about it is that there's permadeath on characters,
Yep.
and so like your characters would just die.
Yep.
And I remember, I think one of my like best ones, or well, I think what it was is that I didn't realize that there were rules that you had to follow in each match, and then sometimes I'd have like a match where I didn't follow the rules or something, and then my character would get jailed, and
Yeah.
I got so frustrated. But it's a great game.
It is a great game. It's
Is
like,
it this? Is PlayStation 1 the same as the Game Boy Advance one?
Yeah,
or
I think
it...
there's a little different licenses in the graphics, but I mean it's the same game.
Oh, okay,
so,
gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but those are. I mean, the tactical games are really fun. Like there's a Sega one called. The name misses my mind. I don't have the collection of those, but they're like the Final Fantasy Tactics, where you had the grid, you move your guys around, and if you lost your guy, he would die permanently.
Oh,
so, there was, I think, Nintendo's Dragon. What's the one that has come out? Oh, my mind's right blank today.
No, you're good.
So there's a couple games like that where you get through and you get attached, and if you die, you can't do anything. They're dead,
Right.
and you're like get bummed out, like, well, darn, I spent all that money and stuff buying this person new gear and stuff, and now they're dead. Can't get them back. Oh
Right.
well, maybe I should have saved a little earlier.
Right.
So
there's a modern game that I'm playing through right now. State of Decay 2. It's like a zombie survival game.
Mhm.
Really, really good. First game was great. Second game added co-op to it, which was perfect. But it has permadeath no matter what level you play on. But it also has an autosave feature, so that like if you die, there's no going back. If you die, like it just automatically saves and your character's gone. The only thing that's like I don't mind it as much is that like you build up this community of characters, and then let's say you take out one of your characters, and then you find like a juggernaut zombie and they rip you in half or something and you die. You can go back to where your character died and like grab their backpack, but also they've turned into a zombie. So you like have to fight them off to get your backpack back.
Wow.
And so it's like it's kind of sad, but also I really like that about.
So you're like, I can get my stuff back. You mean your stuff back? You're dead, okay? So you're not coming back,
Right? Yeah, I was like, there's no cure for you. I'm sorry,
Right.
you're too far gone. But it is kind of a bummer because I get really attached to some characters to the point where I won't play them because I'm afraid I'm gonna lose them. And so like that's the balance that I find like really hard of like, and same with like tactics is that like it made me just like. I was like, I don't rage quit games anymore, but it was like, it just made me just be like, I'm just going to shut this off and I'm not going to turn it back on. You know what I mean? I was like, what a bummer. But
so Fire Emblem is the one that Nintendo has where it's like the early games had where your guys, once they're dead, they're dead.
Really?
Yeah. So,
interesting. Okay.
I had a couple for the Game Boy Advance that were really good. So
I mean, I know of Fire Emblem mostly from the Smash Bros. Games, but I didn't realize that was like a permadeath thing.
Yeah,
That's
there was
crazy.
on I think the very first couple that I had on Game Boy Advance, if you had a character with you, once they're dead, they're dead.
Huh.
So not the main character, but like your support characters, if you found them and stuff and hired them.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, you had to be careful.
Dang. Well, that's crazy.
Yeah. So
yeah. Well, I think that's a good wrap up point for this one. What do you say?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thanks for bringing your stuff.
Yeah,
that was really cool. And should we give a teaser for what we're gonna do next time?
Yeah, I think we could do.
I think it was what you were talking about earlier.
Right. I think we can do maybe some commentary while we're playing some Nintendo Switch. I think we're wanting to try to do GoldenEye.
GoldenEye. Yeah, let's do GoldenEye.
Multiplayer GoldenEye.
I think just some casual entertainment, and we'll see about getting it either live. I don't want to like rely too much on doing stuff live, but maybe being able to like live stream it on like Twitch. We don't have to have like face cams or anything. We can just have our commentary.
Yeah.
But I think that would be kind of fun.
Yeah, I
just
think
like
so
a fun
too.
episode.
I think it'd be fun to kind of sit here and play that.
Yeah, that'd be good.
I can bring my controller over. I have my pro controller I can hook up. So
Oh, nice. Well, I think I tell you that one of the boxes that somebody was gonna throw away just had controllers in it of the Switch. Yeah, like they were like, well, it's like going in the garbage, and I was like, dude, I will take it home. Like I was like, I'll just take the box home. And so I took the box home, and then I like opened it up, and it's got 2 still in the cellophane like controllers.
Wow.
I was like, bro, yes.
So I think the next time will be couch games that were popular back in the day, with it being GoldenEye. Everybody used to have GoldenEye parties, So it'd be kind of a nice throwback here.
Was GoldenEye the one that had Oddjob?
Yes.
Did you use Oddjob?
I don't remember using Oddjob.
I remember that was like a ban. It was like you didn't use Oddjob. That sounds familiar, yeah. It was like my friends were like, because he's shorter than other players, so like I think all the other players have the same height except for him.
Yep.
And he also had the one-hit hat kill.
Yeah.
And people were like, no.
We do that, and then if you want to, I think you said you had some Mario parties at
the
old 64 Mario
that would
parties.
be fun. Oh,
I think they're on Switch too. Actually, I think there's Mario
I think
Party
some
3.
of them are. Yeah,
that'd be kind of fun to throw back on.
That would be, especially because I can't find anyone that ever wants to play those. And
are you serious?
What a bummer to play by
those
yourself.
are actually so good. They're so good to sit down and play and have fun.
They are so good. Thank you.
Yeah.
I think for people, they're like, 20 turns, like that's such a commitment. I'm like, dude, chill.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, those are fun. They're always enjoyable, and you can laugh and cut up while you're playing. It's nothing hard,
Yeah.
I know my sisters and my brother-in-law, they love Mario Party. They'll play them every now and then on weekends.
Yeah.
So.
Oh yeah, I did too. I mean, I used to play all the time with people. Then slowly it was just like, no, we're not doing that anymore. I'm like, all right, that's fine. I don't care.
But, like always, please feel free to reach out to us, and if you got any questions or any topics you think we would, you would like us to talk about more, please let us know.
Yeah, everybody has been really cool and giving us feedback and everything. So if there's anything that you think we need to change or anything you want to see us add in the future, please let us know. Just a quick shout out to my buddy Colin for making the music that you'll hear. And then other than that, I think that's what we call it a day.
Yep. All right. Y'all have a good evening.
You too. Collect, play, repeat.